And we are live. What's up, everybody? Happy Friday to y'all.
Happy Friday. Welcome to Sass. Your host is Smoke over there. Uh, and you'll see a smoke break, and all that good stuff.
Heck yeah. What's going on, Georgia? Hope you
Georgia,
had a
what's
great
up?
ass Friday, bro. But yeah, we are, was this second or third?
So,
This
shout
third?
out to George's girl. Last week, he did a post on his girl, and it was just absolutely beautiful.
Was it?
So, shout out to Georgia and his girl. That was just beautiful. He was just saying how, like, she's his rock and she's everything to him and all that stuff. And I was like, heck yeah, because
Oh,
a real man it can recognize that and doesn't mind talking about that. So
hell
I
yeah, that's
hope y'all
fucking
both are
awesome.
doing well. And if your girl is watching, what's up, girl?
Heck yeah. But yeah, hope everyone's having a good night so far. Ready for kick off the weekend. Um, Today is either second or third. Is it second or third episode on X? Kitty?
I think it's the third one.
Third? Alright. Well,
Hmm.
it's our third episode streaming on X and Rumble. So, all you guys out there on the X and Rumble world, thank you all for watching. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. Uh, X, guys, I can't monitor the chat from the screen here, so I'll do my best to keep up with anybody who is over there chatting. But Rumble and YouTube, I can see y'all, so we're good to go. Hey, Kate, we're getting some feedback there.
I just turned it down.
Oh,
I'm
gotcha,
pulling
gotcha.
X up on my phone.
Oh, no, you're good, you're good.
Yeah.
I thought it was feedback coming through somehow. But yeah, so, anybody new? We talk about a lot of different shit. We stray off topic sometimes, but usually we like to kind of kick everything off with just a little shout out and cover the highlights for the week. Um, what's up, Canada? How you doing, man?
Hey, Canada. How you doing, bro?
But yeah, man. So, what is up with this? Like the flash floods, man. We're in like just all of a sudden out of fucking nowhere flash
I
flood
know,
warning.
right?
Like,
Dude,
how do we not
all
see this coming, guys? For real.
hmm all week, baby. It's been all week. We were supposed to get maybe a little bit of rain, maybe small possibility of rain. All like for I think it was supposed to happen tonight, and then all of a sudden today, at about what was that? About 10 or 11 o'clock today,
Yeah.
it all of a sudden changed to, oh, all of Oklahoma is now in a flash flood warning. And it's going to be raining, and we're under that flash flood warning all the way from midnight tonight, all the way until Sunday. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's covering all the way from part of New Mexico, the east side of New Mexico, babe, through the tip of Texas, you know,
Yeah.
and goes all the way through to Oklahoma.
Wow.
It's a huge ass storm.
Man.
Mhm.
This bullshit. Something's going on. Something's fucking
Mhm.
going on, man. I don't care. Like what anybody says, this is not fucking normal. Not at all. Like, dude, Oklahoma, don't get me wrong, man. I've seen storms come out of nowhere. I've seen storms just come to a dead stop over one location and just pound the fuck out of it. Like, but man, for like the magnitude of these storms and just how out of nowhere, like, this isn't just like, hey, it's a severe thunderstorm that just formed all of a sudden, but I don't know, man. They're fucking with the weather. I don't know if it's a combination of, the frequencies and the chemicals in the air or what, man, but I do wish luck to everybody out there. Prayers out to all of you, man. Anybody who has been through those floods or is about to, or God knows will, you know. And I hope they at least find those remaining girls over there in Texas, man. What is it,
Hmm.
seven? Seven are still only accounted for.
Um, I think it's less than that. I think they found two of them
Is it?
recently. I know they found one today.
Yeah.
So
Shit. Well, at least they're getting recovered, man.
okay, so I'm going to go off on that topic a little bit. Before I do it and I get all sorts of fired up here, you guys, this is why I'm called Sass. I'm going to promote somebody here. I'm going to promote two people. First of all, we got Georgia Redneck Comedy. He is over here in the chat. He is definitely a solid dude, and if you're broke, you may not want to watch him. He is definitely conservative. He tells it like it is, and he just started doing comedy. He was doing independent music as well. He has that on his channel as well. But I am sharing his channel here in the live chat. Be sure to check him out over here on YouTube. And Rumble, if you're missing that, just go back through YouTube through the live chat when you have time and just go through and click on that link and it'll take you straight to his page. Also, by the way, baby, I told you her last name is not Moore. I'm not sure if it's Moore or
Oh
not.
shit! I'm sorry. I forgot to change it. My
So
bad, guys.
Amber, and she goes by Amber.
I
It's
apologize, guys. My fault.
Amber's here, I believe. Amber's not here on
Okay,
Instagram.
I'm just gonna take. Okay, Amber, if you watch this, please let us know your last name. I am
And
sorry.
I'm going to go ahead and put her Instagram link. So if you like any of those items, just reach out to her over there on Instagram, and she will get with you basically. So one thing about all of this, you guys, about what's going on here and everything else. Um, so I know that a lot of you on X have heard and all of the atrocities that these dumb people out there are talking about this camp. Okay, first you have people coming on saying, oh, they're an all white girl camp and making it about race. Okay. First of all, that is incorrect. My niece, who is Hispanic, went. So you don't even have your facts correct, first of all. Secondly, in the pictures of all those girls there, obviously, and I'm not just saying that to say that. You see, there's a little picture, and she looks like she maybe possibly Indian, not Native American, but like Indian, or maybe have some Eastern, you know, heritage, right? But they don't even bother going there. Why do you have to make it about race whenever you've got missing children?
Well, what is the other shit? I
And
don't know
and let
who's.
me hold on. Let me finish this with the point I'm trying to make. These are the same people that didn't give two shits whenever over 300,000 brown children were missing, the illegals' children. But you're not talking about that. You never once talked about that. But you're making a big deal that people shouldn't help these people because they're all white, which isn't even true to begin with. So you can get off that hypocrisy right there and just whatever. I don't care. Whatever you got to say. You already lost me. Go ahead, Stoner Man. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, no, you're good. You're good. Um, no, I was gonna say. Who was that was saying that they should pray harder or should have prayed
Oh,
harder,
yeah.
and that's
It was some
like
dude
basically
named,
just dismissing it like it was just fucking no big deal.
yeah, it was some dude on, it was some dude that was on either X or Facebook or something, and somebody took a screenshot of it, but it's been all over X. You guys, okay, so there was this dumbass, this evil, I'm not even going to say dumbass, he's evil. He went on there saying, I guess they didn't pray hard enough. This was after the first day that those kids were missing.
Yeah,
How fucking dare you, dude? Those are kids.
yeah, dude. Like
Those are
I
kids.
don't
I
care
don't
what the
care.
fuck you believe, but dude, like to say some fuck shit like that, man. Like Like
Exactly.
you're almost laughing, like, well, basically, they're Christians, whatever, is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, there's no reason for that. And let me tell you something. I may consider myself Christian. Okay, right? But I'm one of those Christians that, yeah, I will try to like debate with you my point of view if you want to. I'm not going to push it on you or whatever. But if you want to debate, I can do that. I'll try to. But so with other people, it's your choice, whatever you decide to believe in. But if you're going to hate God so much that you're going to go out there and put some shit like that online, that is ridiculous. You
Absolutely.
know, those are somebody's little girls. How would you feel if that was your kid? How would you feel if that was your kid? That's all I got to say. And then a couple other things, and I think I would like to maybe bring my brother on at some point, maybe um, because he's the one that my niece went there at one point. Um, but there's been other talk about, oh, only elite families have been there, and all this other stuff, and that's not necessarily true either. They have had some elite family like members kids there, yeah, before, but that's not true with everybody. So I'm since I kind of somewhat at a distance, but kind of involved in a way, like not really involved, but I know of because it was my family. I'm trying to set the facts correct here. There are a lot of conspiracy theorists going around saying all sorts of stuff about this. Now, the one thing I will agree with is this cloud seeding stuff that stopped 2 days before the flood. And what would have happened if this cloud seeder didn't do that? What if he had pulled out way earlier because he knew that there was a tropical storm coming in and the direction it was heading? What if he stopped way before that? Would that storm not have stopped right there and just would it have kept moving? What would have
More than,
what I
more than
don't
likely
know.
it would have kept moving. I mean, when it's already got all that rotation and everything, I mean, it really depends on a lot of different factors, like the atmosphere at that time and everything. But
Hey,
a lot of
Chrissy.
variables in that, but there is a possibility. Hey, what's up, Chrissy? But, you know, like, dude, I do feel like this was intentional. Like, this, not just this flood, but even what it hit.
Hmm.
A school full of bunch of Christian girls.
Right.
Come on, man. That wasn't just an accident, dude. Like, the
And
shit
it
that's
wouldn't
happened in
bother
the world,
me.
the shit we have seen, the shit we know now, I mean, just, it's not an accident. You can just feel it in your soul. Like, yeah, this is more of the fucking evil shit in the world.
Right. No, absolutely. And honestly, even though I'm a Christian, even if those kids didn't believe in God, like if it was a camp that just like, you know, it wasn't about like church or anything, I wouldn't care because they're kids. Because they are innocent kids, you
Yeah.
know. And speaking of innocent kids, this whole Epstein list, Just Doing's gone over that quite a bit. Rebelman shared a link to a video of an ex CIA agent that was kind of going into detail and stuff like that. Um, but that really, really bothered me. Now, Stoneman's a little bit better about reading. He believes there's something else behind that. I don't know if you want to make a separate episode for that, babe, but I figured since this is all big stuff that's going on, if you wanted to touch on it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, dude, that's gonna take. I'm gonna end up going off for a while, so we're gonna have to save that for another episode. But like I said, all of this, every episode we do is tying into the bigger picture, a bigger picture, at least. Um,
Right.
and that's one thing too about these is it's like, for me anyway, and Kitty's part in this is different, of course, but we're of the same mindset. We have the same, end goals and everything. We just approach it differently. For me, this is almost like doing these episodes and getting on here. I mean, yeah, I want to try to help people just think, think outside the box. That's my goal. Not to influence anybody, change anybody's mind. Just make them think, man. People need to think more. The problem in the world can be solved. A lot of problems in the world can be solved by people just thinking more. Um, but I feel like this is almost cathartic because it's like a way I can organize my thoughts. Like I see the world how I feel like it should be, and this is a way for me to like put it all together. I mean, there's so many different aspects, things going on, events, how shit ties together, and everything to just put into one conversation. So this is like every episode's like a chapter more or less. I feel like in a book that I'm writing. And Kitty is almost like with her it makes the dialogue, with the chat it makes the dialogue, it's the other people adding their content and their ideas, but you know kind of forgot where I was going with this, but yeah, no, we're gonna have to save that for another episode.
Absolutely.
But
Agreed.
this episode does tie in. It does.
Right. And whenever, you know me, whenever I start talking about kids and babies, I'm like, let's bring them all up. Because at one point, all of those, they were kids that were on Upstate Island. So at one point, I mean, they all may be grown now, but they were kids at the time. And that doesn't excuse it. So I agree, Chrissy, 100% on that. The comments Georgia and Chrissy are making on all of this stuff is on point.
Absolutely. And like Georgia said, it's just it I don't think that they're not seeing the bigger picture. I just think that people are just they're so consumed by what they're told everything is and what everything means. They're just so dependent on people telling them what to think, how to feel, and everything. They don't
Right.
know how to see this shit. Like for people like us, everybody in the chat, we may be fucking wrong about 1 through 100% of what we fucking say, but at least we're thinking. At least we're using facts and trying to sort out the bullshit and use logic and common sense and be good people. These people are just like drones. And
Right.
you know, how do you make a drone think? How do you make a computer think? But
Absolutely. So I'm going to divert this conversation a little bit before we get into our juicy topic that we've got going on here.
real
Man.
quick, Kate, real quick.
Uh
Georgia,
huh.
nah, bro, you're good, man. Now we'll definitely say if we disagree, man. But dude, honestly, a lot of the shit you speak is truth, bro. Same with you, Chrissy.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're all kind of like on the same mindset with all this stuff.
Yeah, but the same
So,
goes to you guys, man. Never like hesitate to tell us like you all disagree, man. We'll never be fucking mad at you for that, man. You know,
absolutely.
as long as you're willing to just debate and we can agree to disagree, we're fucking cool, man.
He and I don't even always agree.
Oh no,
So, yeah.
no.
Yeah, we don't always agree. So, absolutely. We invite it. We're cool with it. I think we need to get back to a world where people can actually discuss and debate, which I was horrible about that for years. With Stoner Man, when we first got together, I would just shut down. I didn't want to talk about stuff. I'm getting better. I'm better with other people. I think it's just because he's my husband. I'm like, I don't want to get all pissified. So, anyway, so shout out to Chrissy. She was doing work on the Shoto site, baby, and she
Oh heck
is
yeah.
working on Lee Mills, and he is a member of Nuclear Dysfunction. She was wanting to get it to look a little bit kind of like some of the work I've done before. I told her I was going to look at it this morning, and I I never did. I ran out of time, but I will definitely look at it either this weekend or next week. Chrissy, thank you so much for helping out artists on that page and taking
Heck
time out of
yeah.
your day.
Absolutely, Chrissy. Thank you so much, man. Like we just we haven't had the time to really do much with it, man, but this was my dream with it was to make it to where the community, man, the fans take it over. You know,
Absolutely.
Katie and I, we don't want ownership of this. just want it to exist,
Yeah.
and you guys do what you want to do with it, man. That's the
Hmm.
beauty of it, We don't want it to be a centralized thing because look what happens when you centralize and you have somebody who controls information, man. Information ain't meant to
Exactly.
be controlled like that. Man, let's get these
Exactly.
fucking artists out there. Let's get fucking their names heard, man. Like, you know, they're not able to get out there, man, get spotlighted very, very well, man. So if we can fix that, fuck yeah. Thank you, Chrissy. Thank everyone who has jumped on there and helped out.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know that we have at least one or two people that were able to add people's videos on the Shoto YouTube.
Yeah,
Um, but we changed everything. So if y'all ever do need the link to do it, just let us know. We'll give it to you guys. And everything else. I did put the link, baby. We're talking about Shoto. I know these people in the chat know what it is, but real quick, do you want to give a quick description since you're on Rumble and X?
yeah. So anyway, guys, we started out supporting independent artists, and this was a project that we started to try and help promote them. Was basically a wiki, like Wikipedia, that is a database for these artists. If they want to throw up a biography or the fans want to throw up a discography or whatever about them, they can do that, man. But um, actually ran into a guy who was like, basically he made a comment. He was like, hey, what's the point of this? I can't remember exactly what it was, but I'm like, well, man, look at Wikipedia. He's like, why would I want to look at this? Well, look at Wikipedia, man. People want to see shit about mainstream artists on Wikipedia. Like, wouldn't they want the same for independent artists? Like that's the thing about the independent artists is the real ones try to build a fan base and get to know their people, man. Like, this is a way for more people to find out about them, man. To find out like what they stand for and all of that, man. To see do they have fucking integrity or not, basically.
100%. Absolutely. I 100% agree with Canada's comment right there that you put on the screen.
Oh, absolutely.
Uh huh. I 100% agree with that.
But all right, Kitty, you ready to get into the topic of the night?
I am.
Heck yeah. All right. So anybody has anyone ever played Assassin's Creed? Any of them? So anybody who doesn't know, it's a video game. Got a shit ton in the series, but basically it's quick summary of the whole storyline is there's this corporation that's invented this machine, and you get inside of it, and it scans and like reads your DNA, and there's some backstory where you find out kind of like okay, there's memory stored within your DNA of your ancestors and the lives they've lived and everything like that, and you can actually in the game you're reliving your ancestors story basically, and you find out there's like this spoiler alert here, you find out that there's a connection with these this like ancient alien race called the Isu, and later on you find out that the Isu were actually once what people thought were like gods of the Greek pantheon or even the gods in the Norse mythology and stuff like that, and basically there is a like long time war for centuries between the Templars and the Assassins. And the Templars more or less are portrayed to be the bad guys. The Assassins portrayed to be the good guys. And it's all about you know this fighting within the shadows and these like assassinations rather than all out war, but there are like all out battles and shit like that. Um, But these assassins, they have a creed, hence the name Assassin's Creed. I'm actually going to pull that up because it's been a while. But the assassins are actually based off of the real assassins, which I will cover in a second. So, nothing is true, everything is permitted, was what they would say. I think it was, the whole thing was nothing is true, everything is permitted. We walk in the dark to serve the light. Now, that is a key moment or a key phrase there that I'm going to use in a later episode. I think we're going to do it next week. That is going to really, really tie into this. But so the Templars, they always have this saying of may the what was it, the may the Father of Darkness guide you. So, yeah. So right there, I mean, you never really quite understand. Well, up to the point where I played last, I played was Valhalla. That you never really understand who the Father of Darkness is, but you know that there is like a connection between this father and these Isu, and basically like how we were created as like us humans were created by the Isu basically as slaves, and the first two that were created were actually Adam and Eve. And the Garden of Eden was basically like the great Isu city here on Earth. And that is where Adam and Eve basically, were created, and they ended up breeding and, creating more, humans, and we were basically like worker bees to this alien species.
So I just looked it up. May the Father of Understanding guide us.
Father of Understanding, that's what it was.
Yes, the Father of Understanding. But there was more to that, wasn't there?
They did
They
expand on
added
that. Like I said,
to it.
they expanded on the Assassin's Creed as well in the Ezio
Right.
trilogy. So the Order of the Assassins, also known as the Hashashin, this does I think it's Nizari Ismaili sect, active in the 11th through the 13th centuries, was known for its use of targeted killings to eliminate political and religious enemies. Let's pull it up here real quick. The Hashashin. So the Hashashin, let's see. So it is derived from the Arabic word hashish, thought though the exact connection is debated. The group's founder was Hassan I Sabah, who established their headquarters at Alumet Castle. Um, they emerged from a split within Ismailism, and the Nizaris believed that Nizar should be the next Imam. They were renowned for their use of stealth and assassination, targeted political figures, often using daggers and possibly hidden blades. While some historical accounts mention the use of hashish, this is debated, with some suggesting it was a pejorative term used by rivals. Their reputation for secrecy and deadly effectiveness made them a feared force in the Middle East. Another key figure was Rashid al-Din Sinan, a prominent Syrian leader of the Hashashin, also known as the Old Man of the Mountain. The Hashashin also established a presence in Syria, with Rashid leading their operations there. The Hashashin's power declined with the Mongol invasions. I think that's Manke Khan's forces captured their leader, and the group eventually faded as a political force. Despite their decline, Nizari Ismailism continues to exist today, with the Aga Khan IV as its current imam. I feel like I'm probably butchering these pronunciations. I can't fucking speak tonight anyway. So they were real, and of course, we know the Templars are real. So, ooh, that's a good one, Georgia. A powerful figure associated with evil or darkness or chaos, father of darkness. So, how this ties into anything in real life. So, there are theories about um, memories potentially being like stored within your DNA. Now,
Ooh, ooh, you're
if you
still my stuff there, baby.
no, I'll let you take that. I'm just touching on it. Now,
Okay.
if you look at the game, the way that they kind of address some, more of the scientific nitpicking, I guess you would say, of it is basically you have like a synchronization level, like how in sync you are with your ancestor that you're trying to view, basically. Um, so if you're too synchronized, basically you lose yourself. You forget who you are. You forget that the reality you physically exist in is your reality. You start honestly believing you're somebody else in a different time period and everything. And if you're too not synchronized enough, then basically you get kicked out of the what they call it, the animus, the machine. So if basically with that being said, you can there's play, you can do things a little bit different. It's not necessarily like you're seeing every moment of your ancestor's life, but rather key points like significant events or maybe things that were stored as more long-term memory rather than short-term. You don't remember what you ate for lunch 2 years ago, like that pretty much gets dumped, but your long-term memory like remains. So maybe that long-term memory is stored or copied to your DNA. Now you can say this is crazy, but years ago they actually discovered that you can store, I don't even remember how much it was, let me look this up, but you can
I
store
know.
quite a
I
bit.
know.
You know what? You know how much it was?
800 megabytes of data into one
Hey,
single cell.
and what kind of cell was that though?
I do not know.
It was a sperm cell.
Um, really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Kind of interesting why they were
Interesting, isn't it?
choosing that cell, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Chrissy said, I have the liquor bottle of A Cree with its authentication.
That's cool.
What? Yeah, liquor
That's
bottle. Was that
cool.
from Syndicate?
Oh
It's
man, I
definitely from
love I
Syndicate.
love
That would be
Assassin's
badass.
Creed games. Oh my gosh. Okay, so who here thinks that that they have done an excellent job? Who here
What's up,
thinks that
Carolina?
hey Carolina girl, who here thinks that some of the stuff, like the way they wrote it, could be a possibility of being truthful? I mean,
Oh
obviously,
yeah.
some of it's exaggerated and whatever, but it has like a small fraction of the truth in there. It's just amazing.
Oh yeah. And like, dude, the was it Black Flag when he gives the apple of Eden to Christopher Columbus? Yeah.
Hmm.
Really makes you think, man. But we'll totally get into that part here in a second. But so yeah, so that's kind of how the mechanics of the game work, basic storyline. So if you can actually store data in a human cell, I mean, you gotta think 880 megabytes
Carter, hey, what's
or
up,
800.
bro?
What's up, Carter? What's going on, man? But if you can store 800 megabytes of data in a single sperm cell, I mean, how many sperm cells are in the average mature male's body? Millions. Now, how many other cells do you have in your body? Different types of cells.
Hmm.
How maybe some cells can store more or less data than others? So, what if there's a cell that could store a whole gig? That's roughly about 224 megs more.
Hmm.
What if it can store a terabyte? I mean, you until we know and research this more, I mean, we could store more data potentially within our body than the average home computer or the average server or even fucking the collective beast known as the cloud, man. I mean, how much data could be stored in a single human body? Now, what if you take
Absolutely.
all of that data from all of these different people? Let's just spitball a number, billions of cells, billions of gigs. So what would that be? Fucking, I don't know, 1,000 yottabytes, 10,000 yottabytes, or some shit like that. That's a lot of fucking data. You know, if we can do that times how many people are in the world, that's a fuck ton of data. That's more than I think our civilization could store in the cloud in the next 30 years, man. That's a lot of data. So, who's to say if that is true, that we can, like, not just store data, unnaturally, but we do it within our body naturally all day, every day. Who's to say there's not memories stored within us just like that? So, with that being said, to some of those people who have had like visions, sights of their ancestors, or maybe, had a dream of them, living a different life, or they have a full blown memory of them in another time, as a different person or whatever. Is that memory maybe connected to a real ancestor of yours? Is that some memory stored within you and passed down, from, all of your forebears? Is it going to be passed down to all of your offspring, for millennia?
Right.
Now, last thing I'll
Absolutely.
say, and then Kitty, you can totally take it from here. Um, Say that is the case. Say are these memories being passed down between generations. Is that maybe a reason why there's a war there's between bloodlines? Maybe that's part of why certain bloodlines they don't want around.
I wish that you would almost break this up a little bit by little bit because I'm not going to remember everything that you brought up.
Oh,
But oh
you're
my
good. You're
goodness,
good.
I'm gonna go into some really deep shit.
Okay, go
Um,
for it.
okay, so before I do, real quick, we got Carter in the chat. He is one of the co-hosts of the Just Doing podcast, Just Doing Podcasting. Again, if you're woke, don't bother. These dudes are real dudes. They talk about real shit, and they are laid back. Everything else, really, really deep stuff they talk about. Sometimes they just like to kick back and listen to music. I'm going to put their link in the chat, so y'all be sure to check them out if you never have. And I'm also putting, like I have with YouTube, I'm putting everybody's links also on X as well in the live chat.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
just doing rock, guys. Please go check them out.
absolutely. Never had
He
a
likes
dream
them.
like that, but what interesting feel that I ended up getting a bad memory. Yeah. So that's interesting.
I mean, that right there could be something maybe somebody before you had the idea for.
Right,
You know,
absolutely. See, I
could
believe in
be.
that stuff. Now, science right now is saying, oh, well, there's no way to prove that. And they're saying that, oh, it's not scientifically been proven yet. But I do believe it's definitely a possibility. And just like Stoner Man said, this is a lot of the reason why people have phobias. So if you had my father, rest in peace, my dad, was scared of water horribly. So that kind of makes you wonder, did he have an ancestor that maybe drowned or was drowned? Because his ancestors came from Mexico. And then before that, they of course came from Europe as well, but like the Spanish. But yeah, like that could be a possibility. People get violent, you know. So it just kind of makes you wonder. So, which part do you want me to break down first?
So you're talking um, about the DNA memory.
Right. But what you went into so much, I kind of want to go into. Okay, let's go into the Assassin's Creed, what they made the Father guide you. So, may the Father of Understanding guide us is a Templar motto. So their higher power is somebody that like a spirit or like a godlike figure. And the ancient Templars in history, actually, it was Mithras, who is an ancient Persian god, basically. And he reached all the way out from Persia, and he went from his popularity grew from Persia all the way to Rome, back in the era of Rome. So um, he was like the god of justice and friendship and contracts, which is very interesting. Light, um, and so the thing about Mithras with these ancient Templars is there's been reported that there is a cult, that it's a secretive cult, and they in underground temples they do these rituals. Okay, and that has been reported even through, like, in the Roman times, basically. um and those rituals are called Mithrae. I'm probably mispronouncing that. Anybody in the chat, if y'all know what it's called, how to pronounce it better, let me know. Um, and it's very interesting. So Mithra, I don't know if you want to just look him up real quick, Sturman, and pull up maybe just a picture of him. But according to some research here, there are 7 stages of Mithraism. Okay. So you've got Raven, Bridegroom, Sick Soldier, Lion, Persian, Runner of the Sun, and Father. Interesting, right? So, again, this is going back to paganism. And, the Romans, back whenever they were converting to Christianity, right? That was a big deal. And at first, it was okay that they were still pagan, but after a while, they had to slowly start becoming all of them Christian. And then you have the the um, the Vatican and the Pope coming along, right? But here is the thing with all of that. This is why they had these secret meetings, because they were still secretly pagan and they were still secretly worshiping uh, Mithra, Mithras. Okay. So that is who the ancient Templars worship. So whenever they say the Father of Understanding in the game, this is who they're talking about. And let me. So I want to do a little bit more research on Mithras himself, basically, before I talk a little bit more about that. What's another subject that you talked about, Stunnerman? Because you went over so much that I'm like having a hard time.
We were talking about the bloodlines too. I know you wanted to touch on that one about like maybe that's why bloodlines are seeked out and targeted is for those memories.
Okay, so I don't know if anybody remembers the recent thing with 23andMe going bankrupt, and there were millions of genetic profiles that were left on the table. And I don't know. Let me see if there. I never. Let's see if they got bought out. Let me look real quick. Bought out of bankruptcy by TTAM Research Institute, a nonprofit founded by 23andMe and co-founder Ian Wachicki. Um, they outbid Regeneron Pharmaceuticals. Look who tried to buy that. Regeneron Pharmaceuticals. But I'm going to look at this TTAM Research Institute. But again, going back to 23andMe, right? So even Ancestry.com, you can send in your DNA to try to find all of your ancestors, like your actually where your actual blood goes back to. You know, your different. Oh, am my people go back to really Africa, or do they go back to Russia or China or whatever, right? So even with Ancestry, I always had I was wanting to do it there for a while, but Stonerman was like, hey, you may not want to do that because even though they don't say it, but I have a feeling that they're going to be using that DNA like in a bad way. And I'm like, well, no, you're probably right. So I didn't do it. Well, another thing that DNA is used for that a lot of people don't know about, insurance companies. They get a copy of your like the insurance companies, their health coverage will go and try to get a copy of that and figure out what you are susceptible to what they won't cover for you and everything else. That's one thing. Two, yeah, like I'm all for it, finding like criminals that have done things in the past and everything else, right? Like I get that. That's nothing's wrong with that. But I do believe that they are trying to find people with this DNA testing. And they are trying to find bloodlines, just like he said, Stonerman. And it could be to target people of kind of light versus dark, right? Even all the way back at the beginning of time, there's always light versus dark. Are they trying to target who they believe are the light workers and get them out of the way? Or are they trying to find more of their own? And that's a breadcrumb, everybody, to another episode.
Yeah,
but
that's the one we're doing next week, guys.
That's the one we're doing next week. So remember that. Are they trying to find more of their own? And the fight with the bloodlines, it is 13. Yes, it is 13 bloodlines, Carter. Now, it'll be reduced to 10. Look in Revelation. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, 13. And see, the thing of 13 was always believed to be an unlucky number I'm not sure if it's for Masons right now, but it used to be, was considered an unlucky number because on Friday the 13th, that was whenever the King of Spain had went ahead and had some of the old Templars killed. And of course, according to all of history, they were all like burnt and killed, they were burnt at the stake for being heretics. But I don't believe they all were. Because how does this knowledge keep going? What about the artifacts?
It was from the offspring. Could have been their offspring.
It could have been, but
you gotta think, illegitimate children, they didn't know those children existed.
Right, but here's the thing about that is that you're in a secret society. You're not supposed to talk about this even with your children.
But that's what I'm saying. What if it's not wasn't spoken about? What if it was within you?
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
So, before I get too crazy on another topic, I'm going to go a little bit more deep here in a second. Woodchuck is in the chat. He is independent artist, you guys. I'm going to put his link in the comments as well, or Senior Man, if you want to, while I'm going over a few more things with this stuff, um, and
Yeah, I
put it
got
on
you.
the X link as well. He does country rap. He does hip hop. He also does horror rap, and all that good stuff. So if you're into any of that kind of music, he's an independent musician. Be sure to check him out. All right. So another topic on this that he kind of touched on. So we're talking about bloodlines, right? So more define their own. When you think bloodlines, chat, who do you think of off the top of your like head? You can put names in there if you want. You can put certain types of people if you want, whoever. But what kind of people, what type of people are the people you usually think about when you think about these bloodlines that have this power and control? So I agree with Carter. He says let's reduce it to zero from the 13 bloodlines to 10. Agreed. Um, all that good stuff. Let's see. I'm waiting on the chat to catch up because we're a little bit ahead. Anyway, so basically, the bloodlines think of the elite, the royals. Anybody here do their own genealogy? Anybody here, like, you don't have to answer it in the chat if you don't feel comfortable doing that. Okay, that your own family history is your own business. But if you're okay with it, you can comment. Who here goes back to kings and queens, even presidents
And what was
of
so
the United
special about
States?
those kings and queens?
Hmm.
What determined
So,
that it got to be them?
hmm so they always, what did royalty always say? The kings and queens, they had the right to rule, right? So even us here in America, okay, Chrissy, if you do, okay, I'm gonna say that's the case from looking at the chat. All right, are you living in a palace or anything like that? Probably not. Yeah, you've got your what you've earned and everything else, but you don't have a palace or anything. You don't have servants waiting on you, nothing like that. Okay. So you are extended far away from that bloodline. Okay. But still, you are still part of that bloodline. So they've lost track of all the other descendants and they're trying to find more. And I will go more into that next episode as to why. What else would you like me to talk about with this stuff? Because I could go on. I'm trying not to go too much into what I'm going to be doing next week because next week's really going to blow everybody's socks off.
No, you're good. You're good. Was there anything else I had mentioned that you wanted
That's what I was
to
asking you.
talk? Well, I'm saying like anything else that you wanted to go with that, because I'm about to switch topics on you.
Okay, go ahead and switch topics.
All right. Um, I'm multitasking here, guys, so bear with me. But so say all of this is true, and you know, there are these memories from our ancestors and all of that. What could that be used for? Like, if somebody was targeting, like, say through, like Katie mentioned, these DNA, these companies that take your DNA for, under the guise of genealogy. I mean, we don't know what they're doing with it. Are they trying to study like a specific like bloodline? Are they trying to just study the genetics and see how maybe people with a certain blood type, or like what do they call it, genetic disposition or whatever, are more susceptible to certain diseases? Is this a way for them to fine tune like some sort of biological warfare, or hell, maybe even a psychological warfare. Because, I mean, your DNA basically is the blueprint for you, right? I mean, it defines, your characteristics physically and, like personality wise. So, are they just targeting that? Is it maybe that they want to try to trace what your bloodline is? Maybe just who you're related to. Like, yeah, you want to know your lineage. We want to know too. Kind of deal. And you're gonna pay us to do it. You're gonna pay us to let us know everything about you. What can you not find out from DNA? What if you can find out like somebody's, you know, predisposition to have like a mental disorder, and you can exploit that mental disorder? If you can exploit that mental disorder, maybe you can, use that person as, a pawn in some sort of plot, maybe. People are what kind of smell while I'm stepping in here.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go back in history again and just make a simple example. Look at World War II. When they were dividing the volunteers up, what did they do with the Marines? How did they choose the Marines? They chose Marines. They chose guys that they knew their parents were in an insane asylum or had been, killed or something like that, had a traumatic childhood. So that's without them having DNA. So they knew something about the psyche even then.
Oh yeah. Yep. And we were talking about some of the like experiments and everything that they were doing on the in prison, and like inmates and everything. What was that psychiatric ward with the it was the like they had the breakout of the bread mold, and it was making everybody go crazy.
Hmm.
What was that back? It's like back in like
I
the
really don't know about
20s or
that one.
something like that. Yeah, there's some psychiatric ward where something about the quality of the bread. It had some sort of mold on it, and it was basically making people hallucinate and go crazy and all that shit.
Hmm.
Which, I mean, bread mold can be serious. I mean, there's even certain types that are like, can be like, necrotic and shit like that. But, um, sorry, I'm multitasking to kill here. But, what did we do, like, when, like we first started kind of studying the human brain? We were, like, cutting people's heads open and shit while they were still alive. We were lobotomizing people because we thought that would, make them more sane. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they even like lobotomized some women just for having PMS. Trying to
Oh,
fix
yeah.
PMS.
Hmm.
Like it's 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 all, I feel like, connected. Like it was it was so, what's the word I'm trying to use here? Barbaric, I guess.
Hmm.
Like, we're at a time when we were supposed to be, advancing in technology, and I'm not saying like electronics. I mean like, you know, as surgeons, and we, had colleges and universities and all this for people to go and study and, you know, understand the human body. I mean, dude, look at Da Vinci. Look at how he studied the human body. He wasn't cutting people open trying to like fucking figure it out. Why were we cutting into people's brains? Why was that the
Well, he
route we took?
technically he did, but they were already dead.
But see, that's different. That's an autopsy.
Right. Absolutely.
You're not cutting people open while they're alive, like poking around, like, hey, how do I fix this?
Exactly.
Like, dude, does that
Exactly.
that just seems so fucked up to me. Like, like, hey, if you're if you're, dead, hey, yeah, do an autopsy, see why, like, what caused, this person to, to die. Was it a medical disorder? Was it, organ failure? Whatever. I don't see anything wrong with that. But I almost feel like it was, we're at a point where we should have been at a level higher than that. We shouldn't have been doing things so, like, rudimentary like that. Like, you know, I mean, we had, there were surgeons in the 1800s, who could, you know, like, really work with their hands and, save people's lives. And here we are hacking them open. And,
Mm-hmm.
I made this point to Kitty earlier, like, look at what, like, the fucking, um, SS did and shit, man. What was, his name? The fucking crazy scientist dude. I'm
I know who
drunk.
you're talking about.
Yeah, like, that's what it reminds me of. And if, like,
Joseph Mengele. How do you say his last name? Mengele. He was the most
Mengele,
notorious.
I think it was Mengele.
Mengele, Angel of
Yeah,
Death. Angel
yep,
of Death.
yep.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, you know, didn't we get a bunch of their scientists?
Hmm. Project
And this is
Paperclip.
another, yeah, and this is another breadcrumb that we're dropping here for next week as well. Like, that wasn't just we didn't have the knowledge, we weren't advanced enough yet. We were plenty fucking advanced to understand that was not the way to approach it, and that was not going to be a successful procedure. I mean,
Hmm.
it's why we don't fucking use it anymore. Like, now, I mean, well, we do. We lobotomize people with chemicals and medication, not,
Hmm.
not actual surgical tools. But
Right. Absolutely.
um, sorry, woodchuck. I feel like the brain is connected to God. Like when He made us, He made our brain to be able to process human life and existence, but also made it to where it can shield us from the truth.
Absolutely. Look at multiple personality disorder or dissociative disorder.
Oh yeah, and
Absolutely.
you know, like our body is a machine. All of our organs function together, and we need them to function in harmony. Without that brain, what is the rest of us? Like, that's why I feel like, I would, if I was a vegetable, man, like, I couldn't use my brain, like, I would go crazy, man. But I'd feel
Hmm.
the same way if, like, I couldn't use my body, like, I would go crazy. Like, I feel like I need
Right.
the function of both. I don't know what I would do with myself with just one. I really
Hmm.
honestly don't know which one I could say I'd rather have. I guess my brain, because at least I'd be able to think.
Yeah.
But
So,
Carter made a good
uh,
point too about the bread. Yeah, dude, bread is
yes,
not what it used to be at all.
absolutely. So another breadcrumb that we're going to leave out there, um, the school system, the education system. Our grandparents to great grandparents, all the way back, knew a lot more than we did, a lot earlier than we did.
Oh yeah.
Where are we at in U.S. ranking within the school system, within the world?
Last time I looked, 48th.
Yeah.
Like in
So
the country, we're 48th. Like, are you talking about
another,
Oklahoma or America?
no, U.S.,
Oh
the
shit, I
United
don't know.
States.
Low, low.
Yeah. So we keep dropping and dropping. And they've done it on purpose because they do want us to be dumb. They do want us to just listen. Like Sonderman mentioned at the beginning of this episode, and Just Doing always says all the time. They want people to just be drones and listen to what people say and be like, okay, and that's the truth for them. But just like Just Doing and Stoneman is saying on this channel, do your own research. You may not agree with us. We may be wrong in some perspectives, and that's okay. But at least you're figuring it out for yourself. They don't want people to do that anymore. They want to dumb down our kids because they know they're going to grow up to be the new generation, and each generation keeps getting less and less education and more indoctrination. Robots, exactly. Zombies for climate change that have nothing to do with anything. Zombies for the new political whatever.
Don't
Absolutely,
question
don't
anything,
question
all right?
anything. All right, exactly. That's what they. And if we do question something, that those other generations are the ones attacking us. We're like, no,
Question
no, no, no. You
everything.
need to think because they've trained them to do that.
Yep.
They've trained them to do that. But that is a breadcrumb also that I'm going to tie in next week because you got to think about everything. Everything like what is that show that we watch? Reservation Dogs.
Oh
The
yeah.
cop, Organic. Everything
Organic.
is connect. Everything is connected. Like he says, it is. Everything is connected. Everything is connected.
Yep.
So, but that's just my opinion from the research I've done.
And then anybody who doesn't who says that it's not connected, like I said, we're not trying to sway anybody's opinion, just trying to get you to think. But look at what is it? Chirality, I believe it is. The chiral effect, where basically every like atom has a twin somewhere in the world, and whatever you do unto that atom, this the same effect will happen to its twin, no matter where it's at, and whether it's on this planet and it's at this atmosphere, if it's planets or galaxies away. How the fuck does that work if shit is not connected?
Right.
And you can say, well, what's this connection? And there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of shit we don't know about dark matter. Hell,
Mm-hmm.
now we're saying that, or theorizing, that dark matter does not exist. Okay, well, we had this big discovery of dark matter, and then people start like, well, we're gonna really have to think about this and look at, kind of change how we're approaching what we know, like how we see the world, what we know about physics, and all of this to try to understand this because it's not quite making sense. More or less, just layman's terms putting it. And now all of a sudden we're saying, well, it might not actually exist. What? We
Mm-hmm.
have, when you add up the mass of the universe and you have a lot missing, like it just doesn't add up when we take what the math says the mass of the universe should be versus what we calculate the actual mass of the universe to be. There's a big fucking difference. You know, don't know the exact percentage, but about 50%. So, there, what does this shit do? We don't know. Could this be the ether? Could this be the connection between everything that's in the world? Could this be the
Ooh,
glue that
ooh.
holds everything together? Could this be
Mm-hmm.
the telephone line, the Ethernet line, the data cable connecting everything?
Mm-hmm.
What were you saying? You go.
Absolutely. Okay, so you mentioning the Ethernet, and you mentioned Juno earlier. That was another thing.
Oh yeah,
So, who believes that AI could have some demonic influence?
I do
And I'm not talking about
because
people that
we
train
influence
them.
it. Oh,
I'm
I
not
got
talking
you. I
about
got
people
you.
that train them.
You're talking about like from
Which
actual like
which
humans.
Assassin's Creed was that? Was that
Oh, I know what you're going with this now. Yeah, yeah. Fuck. I know what you're talking about. That was that was part of the Ezio trilogy. No,
no?
no, that's
I don't
Black
remember.
Flag. That was Black Flag. I think. I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
Okay,
because that's when they
I'm
kind
not
of all of
sure.
a sudden just like stopped with that storyline for a little bit. So yeah, I'm like 90% sure that was Black Flag.
Okay, so you want to go into what happened?
I honestly, it's been a while. I couldn't tell you the whole thing, but basically, um, so the spirit of the one of the Isu, that ancient, alien race, was Juno, and she more or less stored her soul like within, I guess you would call it like the beast, the network of everything that is the internet, the worldwide network, everything. And it was almost fueling her. She was actually reaching in to the animus itself, the machine, the computer, and like speaking like to whoever the user was. And there's a whole lot more that goes in it, but that's without explaining the whole storyline of the game. That's basically what happened. Um, but so, Lynn, I think it was Valhalla. One of the things I really tripped me out was how they went into what Valhalla actually was.
Mm.
And basically, it was like the way they portray it is you see like this memory of the gods, Odin, Thor, all of them, and they're trying to reach the tree of life, but then there's almost like a glitch, and you see a different perspective of that memory almost, to where they're not gods, but they're actually the Isu themselves, and they are trying to get to this machine that they built, which, you know, we thought to be the tree of life, but they actually hooked themselves up to it, and it basically put them in like a matrix almost. It was
Mm-hmm.
a AI reality, a virtual reality
Yeah.
that basically they could live in and survive in until they could you know survive on Earth again. There was I think it was a solar flare was coming. It was going to burn the Earth up, so they were trying to go underground and find a way to survive until the Earth was habitable again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically what happened to these gods.
Right. Right. So that is definitely a big breadcrumb for next week.
Oh yeah.
I know I keep on saying talking about next week. I just can't. I don't want to. So we're gonna be. This is all tying in Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed goes big time into the Isu, who we consider our gods, like the polytheistic pantheons and stuff like that. And the Templars are trying to bring them back. Everything else, like because they, in a way, they worship them. So these are the modern day Templars, right, that are trying to do this and bring them back in. But even the ancient Templars are trying to do the same. Think again, ancient Templars in history, Mithras, the god. Think of all of that tying in together, technology, dumbing down everybody. Think of all of that.
So I would say the best way to sum up the breadcrumb is who who were these gods? Like the people that we at one point called gods and even demigods. What
Mm-hmm.
were they actually?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the breadcrumb. But all of this seems
Ooh.
random. But
Yeah.
we are going like are going to get this together. Um, Carter plateaus, sandy rock formation shaped like trees.
That is very interesting. Have you ever seen those photos and videos of
No,
those?
no,
Yeah.
I've always known a plateau to be like a flat rock, like like you just got like the flat cap almost.
Look it up real quick.
Yeah,
Look it
let me
up. It's actually very interesting. I do believe that there could be something to that. Because there's nothing like, according to what I believe, right? There's nothing impossible with God. Why God could have created something like in nature that was much larger than what we're used to seeing everything else, or it could have been created by something else, some other people that aren't really people. Anyway, that's another hint. Nephilims. Carter's
Carter
like,
got it. Carter fucking got it.
mm-hmm,
Hell yeah.
mm-hmm. I am gonna be talking about giants, Nephilim. Um, goodness sake. I'm gonna try to remember his last name. I brought him up before.
So there's one called the Devil's Tower in Wyoming. So they say it's a laccolith, a type of igneous intrusion where magma pushes its way into existing rock layers but doesn't reach the surface. As the surrounding sedimentary rock eroded away over millions of years, the more resistant igneous rock of the Devil's Tower remained, creating the striking formation we see today.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at that right there,
Can you pull that up singularly to where I can see it
yeah,
better, babe?
yeah, I'm trying to get it up here. Like, I know it's hard to see on there, but from what I'm seeing, that looks like a fucking, like, you can see the rings in it like you do on a tree, like the grain. Let's see if we can get X pulled up here.
So that's very interesting. Bible said God could sent down angels to cut down the tree so evil couldn't escape the flood. So I'm going to be talking about that too a little bit. There are a couple of different theories on the flood and the Nephilim, but yes, that is very interesting. So, does anybody know how many angels supposedly fell from heaven? While he's getting that, wow, look at
There
that.
we go.
That totally looks like a
Like,
tree.
right here, like, you
Oh
can
yeah,
see where it looks
the
like grain.
rings. Mm-hmm.
Especially right here in the hollow point right there. That
Mm-hmm.
looks like the fucking grain of a tree.
Mm-hmm.
And even look at that. Look at the. Does that
Yeah.
not look like bark?
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of oak tree bark.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, obviously, I mean, they can take samples of this and all of that, right? I mean, they can, basic earth science tells you how to identify, sedimentary, igneous, all that shit. So, what if, what if it was a different type of tree? Because I think the tree of life is, like I said, the circulatory system. Like the nervous system, all that. I think if when you look at that by itself, I don't know if anybody does anybody remember the Visible Man, the model you got with it was the clear body and you had the organs and the skeletal system and the veins and everything. You had to paint the arteries and the veins and the organs to their accurate color and piece them all together where they go. Like when you take the organs and the skeletal system out and you just have the circulatory system, I mean, you can tell by looking at that. Like it looks like the fucking roots. The spine is the trunk, and then going up is like the branches and the leaves.
So
So
Carter got it on the 200 angels fell. That's correct.
yeah, that definitely looks like a fucking tree that was cut down.
Absolutely, it does. Mm-hmm.
What if that was a tree that was underground? Maybe that got pushed up.
Absolutely.
But that is some crazy shit there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lot of what ifs, definitely. But it makes you think, like even down to the kind of general basis of the game, it's kind of a light and dark kind of fight, and the light in the dark was basically the Isu themselves against the humans, and say, I'm not going to spoil it too much, but say the Isu are the Nephilim. Kind of sounds about right, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But as far as accessing this, I don't know if anyone could actually do that, but I definitely feel confident that they are trying to do that. And with that being said, I just ask people, man, it's your decision what you want to do with your DNA, man, and your blood and all that. But I mean, even going to the doctor, when you're getting blood work, like, what makes you think that, you know, a little bit of that blood isn't going somewhere else? What if
Oh,
what
speaking
if
of
that
that,
what if
mhm.
that COVID swab went somewhere else? Everyone
Mhm.
getting a fucking rod shoved up their fucking nose.
All the way up to their
And then,
brain almost.
like, damn near hunting for brain matter up there, man. Like, gray matter.
Mhm.
The fuck are they doing with that? Why you gotta shove that so far up your nose? If I can fucking say hi to you and infect you with COVID, can't I just like cough into a fucking cup? I don't know. That sounds like that would fucking work. It spreads that fucking easily, right? Why
Right.
do we need the swab? I mean, dude, unless you get the saliva from when you're speaking, you're not getting that DNA. It has to like be the saliva or like mucus of some sort.
Mhm.
Tell me that's not what they were fucking doing. Why did we need that? Hell, you don't need to take a flu test like that. Shit.
Right.
And
No,
then all of a
absolutely.
sudden, oh, guess what? We have these home tests now. But they're not as accurate. We still recommend you go get an actual test from your general practitioner.
Mhm.
Like, or go to the ER or whatever. Like, okay, so basically you're saying that you're gonna fearmonger us into basically feeling like, okay, well, the home test isn't accurate enough. I still need to go fucking to the doctor. What
Mhm.
if it's a false, negative? Oh my god, what if it's a false negative? Dude, I've heard so much about false negatives during COVID. I never heard about a false positive.
Right.
When did anybody ever fucking talk about false positive? Oh yeah, I got a false positive. I'm actually good. No, it was always nope, nope. You got it. You got it. Even if you don't got it, you more than likely still got it.
And speaking of, on you never know what's going to happen with the DNA. So really quickly, I was trying to do this in between us talking, right? And looking up the TTAM Research Institute. So if you look that up, and I'm going to put that in the chat, but their website is very bare. It just says that's the institute, and it says that Anne is the co-founder, and she was from
Hold on, what is this? The
23andMe.
TAAN?
TTAM. So
Oh,
you can't really
TTAN.
find it. You don't really have any information. So I had to go to 23andMe, and I'm going to read this what it has about the TTAM Research Institute. Nonprofit medical research organization to help scientists and non-scientists join together to unravel mysteries of DNA, the code of life. They're going to be accessing the individual genetic code and empowered to contribute it to scientific research. So if you have anything with 23andMe, it's up to you, whatever you decide. But I would recommend closing it down.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, anything
I
where
mean,
you're
that doesn't
sending
mean
off a
anything
part of
bad,
you.
but just,
Yeah, I mean, anytime when you're sending something off, I mean, you gotta think how personal and vital that kind of information is to you as an individual. And like you make that decision, that's your decision. Just make sure you are aware of what the possibilities are. Like I said, we could be fucking wrong about all of this, but even if we are, what if there's something else that's nefarious going on? What if they're doing something else? Like, just think about it, man. Hey, is this worth the risk? I mean, we have facilities growing babies like fucking fruit in a greenhouse, and they're making chimeras and clones and all this shit. Like, what if they're using our DNA for that? You know?
Mm,
Like,
mm-hmm.
I don't want a bunch of fucking imitation me's running the fucking around. Like, no,
Right.
man.
Or
I mean,
what
I
if?
believe in. Sorry, go ahead, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, no, you're
Finish
fine,
your
you're fine.
thought.
You're fine. No,
Or
I'm gonna stop myself there.
what if this genetic research is making chimeras? That is another um, hint for next week.
What if there are
They're
no
making
clones?
chimeras out of
What
you.
if, what if the clones are guys for the chimeras? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, dude, it's not natural for us to be born in pods, man. Like, what movie did you see us like living in pods, being born in pods? The Matrix. The only
Hmm.
difference is when you were born in that pod, you never left. You stayed in it. What if that comes next? What if these babies never escape these pods?
So Chris
What?
is hitting on something here. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and if that's the case, and they end up having all of these beings, because they're not human, they're a type of human, but they're not human in the classic sense. What are they gonna do with all of these if they leave them in these pods? Are they going to try to put them into some sort of computer program, some sort of alternate reality?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who's ever played the game No Man's Sky, since I imagine this might attract some gamers, anybody ever played No Man's Sky and who has, spoiler alert here, completed the main storyline, what did you end up doing with one of the travelers? To save his life, you put him into a virtual reality so that he can survive because your brain has to function to to exist, to keep going. It has to function. So to function, it needs a reality to live in. There's no body left, so it needs that a reality to exist in, and that's how you save him. You basically put him into a virtual reality.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So
And Chrissy, yes.
Chrissy hit on something there. Anybody know about the Cabbage Patch Babies? And I'm not talking about the little dolls from the 80s that we all had. Um, but there's a connection with the Cabbage Patch Babies and look at the orphan trains.
Do you want to
And
elaborate on the
I'm
orphan
going
trains a
to,
little bit?
okay, so basically, I want to say it was the 1800s and early 1900s. I don't remember exactly how long that it was happening, but anybody who was an orphan was put on a train, these kids, and they didn't have any parents or anything or any adult relatives with them. They pack them all on these trains, and they go and they'd make stops at these towns, and they'd announce it in newspapers. The orphan train is coming. So a lot of these guys that were farmers back in the day, and like let's say they had 6 daughters, they're like, we need a boy. Like we'll keep trying, but we need a boy soon. I can't do this all on my own outside. So they would go and they would read the newspaper, see that the orphan train's coming. They're like, okay, good, and they'd go adopt. but that can also lead to other things nefarious, you guys. And the exact same thing that's been going on right now. History repeats itself.
And Kitty, thank you so much for bringing up those orphan trains,
Mm-hmm.
because in one of the Assassin's Creed games, which takes place during the Industrial Revolution, was Syndicate, and it was never explicitly stated but heavily implied throughout the child labor and who these Templars that of course existed through different eras were using these kids for child labor, but also for some other darker stuff, which is never said or shown, but it's definitely heavily implied. But the whole premise of that game is basically you and your twin. You can play as male and female each one throughout the game. You create this game called the Rooks, and yeah, you're not only fighting you know the corporate fat cats, but you're also saving the children.
Absolutely.
And I think the Industrial Revolution. I mean, yeah, we got some good results from it, but I think it really fucked this world up. I
Mm-hmm.
think that is the point when they finally began to enslave us again. They found a way
Right.
to trap people in factories, not paying them a fucking, enough to fucking feed their families. Everybody starving and poor and working, ridiculous fucking hours and all of that. And they still couldn't fucking feed their families, feed themselves, anything, you know.
Absolutely.
And what happened after that? How did they address that problem with the unions?
Mm-hmm.
And then what did the unions end up doing long term? Basically, in my opinion, they pussified the workforce.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think it's great. Like OSHA, for example. Let's go with OSHA. I think it is great to have protection for people. I think if you're on a job site, like, hey man, I've got a fucking family to go home to, I've got to provide for them. I can't get hurt. I have to be able to continue working. You know, like, I can't be out of work. I can't be injured. So, like, this is too dangerous. We need a safer way to do this. I think that is all well and dandy. But when you impose so many regulations on a business, and you impose, these outrageous fucking, you know, fees for your workman's comp and your insurance and all of this, all in the name of protecting employees, you're hurting the little guy. You're hurting the small businesses who can't afford to pay those high premiums and shit. So, long story short, we wouldn't have had the unions if we didn't have, this outrageous fucking, laborious lifestyle back then. So I think both are taken to an extreme. There's no fucking middle ground there. You know, like, I think OSHA, I think unemployment, workman's comp, all that shit has pussified the workforce, and it has hurt the pockets of the small companies who are barely making it anyway. Especially with fucking, materials being outrageous. You know, I mean, a lot of companies are having to cut their profits back just to be able to sell a job because, materials are so fucking high. Nobody can sell a job if nobody can afford to pay for work to be done. And it's all connected and interweaved in together of how they're trying to make some of us slaves, well, most of us slaves, but then they're also trying to make it to where nobody just knows how to do a hard, honest day's work, be safe about it, and, be able to take care of their fucking family, to be able to afford to put fucking food on the table, to be able to have time to be in the household and be a father figure or mother figure to the children of the household.
Right, or never learning or never having time to make your own garden,
Yeah.
or learning how to raise animals like cows, goats, chickens, stuff like that, knowing how to take care of them. Um, these things right here are very crucial. I think everybody should learn it. Everybody should know how to do it. Not saying that's going to be your profession, it's not for everybody, but everybody should know how to do it because you need to be able to take care of yourself.
Oh yeah.
And that's the deal. They don't want anybody taking care of themselves. This is the reason why they're going after the farms, why they're going after the ranches. And the reason why they are going after them, not just for that, they are going and they're trying to put chemicals in their food that they're putting out.
And see, right there, you brought up another good point. You know, the Industrial Revolution really like was kind of the beginning of the downfall for farmers and ranchers.
Hmm.
Like in my head, I'm like, I want to go back to the time when you could go like buy a piece of land and you didn't go to work. You worked for yourself. You bought a piece of land and you started growing shit on it, or you built a little shop. And a lot of those people, I mean, they worked on the ground floor, and then upstairs they had a little living area. They lived where they worked. Not it's not like they lived at work. That was their livelihood. Work wasn't a place to go. I don't believe anybody should have to go to work.
Hmm.
You should always be at work. Like to be at home,
Right.
to wake up and say, I'm going to go out on my property and I'm going to tend to my land because my land is what pays my fucking bills. And I'm not saying you have to do it. If you don't want to fucking do that, that's cool. But we should have the opportunity and the ability to where we can still live like that. To
But
where
they're
we can
making it
go open the
harder and harder for people to live that way.
Oh yeah. Like you want to go open the shop, be like, hey, like I'm gonna buy this place, I'm gonna live here, so I'm gonna run this shop. This is my livelihood. I live where I
Hmm.
work where I live.
Hmm.
Like,
Absolutely.
yeah, like, and that's the thing, like I despise going to work, but when I get home, I go to work, and I love it. I love it. I love being outside. I love sweating in the baking sun. I love getting my fucking hands dirty and using my hands. And I will bust my back on my fucking property all day long.
He
Like
totally will.
the day that I can, wake up out of bed, walk outside my door, and be at work already is the day I
Hmm.
live the fucking dream. And I
Hmm.
will never work a day again in my life because it's not work to me.
Yeah,
It's fucking fun. It's cathartic.
absolutely, Chrissy. And they are killing common sense, Carter. Chris
Yeah.
has said it should be more like the Waltons. Absolutely. And if that isn't for everybody, that's okay. Like, what was
Oh
it?
yeah.
John, John Boy, he ended up going to the city and becoming a writer. That was just more of his deal, you know? But nothing's wrong with that.
But
Nothing at all is wrong with that.
even the cities, I hate going
No,
to
they
like
were
the
different.
city. I hate going to the city, but you like going to like going to town or something, where you just got like a few shops or something, just all small businesses. I want to
Hmm.
live somewhere where there's not a chain, where there's not a fucking
Hmm.
franchise. Like, people just open business. You know.
Absolutely. And Carter mentions a good point here. Also says definitely they don't want people to be self resilient and contained. They don't.
Mm-mm.
Now ask yourself why. We all
Because
know the immediate why, like control, right? Obviously, like that correlates there. But why are they controlling? Why are they wanting to control? It's more than just greed. It's more than just about control. another breadcrumb.
Yep. And touch back on and yes, Carter, absolutely. I think another part of the problem is look like so many, especially the bigger companies. You are, I mean, yeah, a grunt's a grunt. You know, yeah, everybody's got to climb their way up the ladder, but there's no teaching anybody business. Like, you know, there was a time when you went to go work for a shop owner and you were more or less an apprentice. You know, like that shop owner, you know, he made you work, climb the ladder, and you know, do the bitch work and all that. And you know, if you bit the bullet and said yes sir and did it, eventually he'd be like take you under his wing and say, hey, I want to teach you the business, you know, and all that, and you learn. You know, that shop owner, your boss, is like a mentor, and you know, one day you might take over that company, or you might take that knowledge and you might go start your own company, you know. But there wasn't competition in that the sense it is now. I mean, you know, it's it's already hard enough to beat the you know the corporations, but when the business is so cutthroat because of the corporations, all the little guys are you know at each other's fucking throats. And when you fight amongst yourselves, you're not fighting your enemy. So it's almost like a distraction within itself there because we're so busy fighting each other and at each other's throats, you know, either trying to get in a fucking, you know, bidding war or whatever, or trying to poach, you know, clientele, whatever the case may be. We're not focusing on, hey, how do we take out the corporate giants? How do we make the game fair again? And not only that, but like I said, we're not go to Walmart. Your stalker, 9 times out of 10, that stalker looks like he doesn't give a shit. He's miserable. You know, he doesn't want to fucking be there. Probably doesn't even want to work in the first place. There's no inspiration. There's no teaching these people the good old fashioned value of a dollar. There's no teaching them, hey, you don't have to be stuck here fucking, you know, throwing boxes around for the rest of your life. You can be something greater. Let me teach you, you know, I don't know, how to do inventory. Inventory is a good skill. You know, if you're selling products or you're, you know, stocking materials for a job, you need to know how to keep track of your inventory. You want to make sure you don't have money walking out the door. That's a vital skill to know. That's basic rudimentary shit there. But are we teaching people that? No. We're teaching people we hire as managers because they went to fucking school or they went to a community college for a little bit and like, oh, okay, you're worthy enough. We're going to teach you. So right there you see a trend of people who get special treatment already, those who went to school. I know some managers and business owners and everything that haven't gone to school, are not formally trained or anything, and they are way more intelligent and savvy than any of these fuckers that you know graduated with a fucking business degree.
Right.
Absolutely, because all they're taught is theory and you know how to read fucking P&L and shit. Like that's good to have, but you know, like my boss, man, when he looks at a financial statement, it's like a map to him. It's like a picture. He can see it, and like you know, he can say, yeah, this number's high because of this over here, and on this page, this number's low because of this, and this correlates to this. So we're actually, even though net profit's down, there's this much on the books right now, so here within this amount of time we should be sitting at this amount, and he can see a picture, and he can see like 6 months down the road what the numbers are already going to be, and he can see these trends just by looking at a fucking couple sheets of paper, man. Like, you can't teach that in school, man. No. People at school, they're gonna look at that bottom line. They're gonna say, "Well, hey, we're in the fucking red. We gotta start cutting hours. We gotta fucking do this. We gotta start imposing regulations." No, man. Like, there's more to it than just the bottom line. Hey, look, we had 6 guys we were fucking training all month. So labor's high, and that took a good chunk of the profit out right there. But here in, X amount of time, when these guys are trained up to a level to where they can be out on their own, we're going to be able to do more volume, and therefore we will end up with more profit in the long run. See, they don't think ahead like that. They're not seeing the bigger picture. That shit you can't teach in school. That shit is taught through experience. Kitty, are you still with me? Did I lose you there? I think Kitty went for a smoke break. Chrissy, that is a very good question. Why do some people crave evil, and what is the goal of evil? Absolutely. I think, without going into too much more on this episode, I used to always think, like, okay, they're supposed to be, the trials and tribulations. Why would God want us to endure all of this, you know, evil in the world? He loves us, and for a while that made me not believe in God, because I was looking inside, like, I was still thinking inside that box, but I don't know. I almost feel like maybe it's a wake up call. Maybe this is meant to be something that we have to experience, so we know what not to do. We know what will happen if we, continue to be the sinners that we are. And that's just my best guess, you know. And I hope that one day, we can all learn. I know I'm ready for the world to be a better place. I'm ready for, to have that agape back in the world. But I know a lot of people, they don't, they still don't believe the world's like evil. They think people like us are evil. And, I think we all have to be on the same page. And once we can all be on the same page, we can all collectively, resonate with that agape. And when we resonate with that agape, we will achieve a point where this evil will no longer exist. People expect everything to be handed to them nowadays. They don't actually learn and earn their ways anymore. Exactly. Exactly. And, the managers, when I was coming up, that I was respected the most were the ones who worked their way up as opposed to being hired in, because, they already kind of had that sense of, everything's not a black and white scenario. Everything's not by the book. You can't live your life like running a business by the book. There are times when you have to make exceptions. You have to let some shit go. You have to say, hey, you know what? Yeah, this is technically breaking the rules, but, hey, this guy busts his ass for me, and I've never had a single problem with him. You know, I don't care that, he took 2 minutes longer on his smoke break. Like, little shit like that, man. I mean, how many people get pissed off because of corporations riding their ass on a fucking rule book? Like, dude, nobody better fucking, say shit to me about, taking a little bit longer on break when I bust my fucking ass. Like, if you're that concerned about 2 minutes, then you're not going to be successful in the business, man. Like, there's a time for efficiency, and there's a time to say let's just be chill and let shit go.
Absolutely.
And Carter, great point there too. Real world training can't be done in school. Man, look
Mm-hmm.
at wood shop, metal shop, auto shop. Hell, fuck, even when I was going to school, fucking, no, not a whole lot of people went to like Votech, and when they did, it wasn't for hands-on shit. It was for like accounting and shit like that. Which that's all good information to know, but when nobody's learning a real world trade, man, like, And that's the thing is it's hands-on work too. It's I mean, how many times are you gonna use that? Your truck's gonna break down how many times in your life? Something in your house is gonna break how many times in your life? If you're barely making it by, you're living paycheck to paycheck. Can you afford a handyman? Can you afford a repairman? How much money can you save if you just had some basic knowledge of woodworking or basic knowledge on, how to fix your vehicle, change your own brakes, whatever. That can save you a lot of money.
Absolutely.
What's up,
Absolutely.
Patriot? Sorry,
Hey,
man, I'm a little behind
Patriot.
in chat. How
So
you doing tonight, brother?
I'm going to add something else to this, what you're talking about, and I'm going to tie something else in here. Why is it that in all films, ever since, well, ever since film started, ever since movies began, shows began, why is it that all of Hollywood likes to portray the South like we are a bunch of dumb people that don't know anything? Why is it they are constantly downing us? This is part of the reason why Upchurch did what he did. He's like, you know what? Mm-mm. People need to understand the South. The South is you don't understand it. And where are most of the ranches and farms at?
Yep, in the south.
In the South. Not everywhere. I mean, you have some in northern states. You have some in the
Montana.
like you've got a lot of area up there as well. It's not just whatever, but they like to make fun of us. They like to make fun of anybody in the South. Oh, your parents were cousins or brother and sister. All these stupid troll jokes and whatever that's been portrayed by Hollywood and all of entertainment industries. Look at mainstream music and country right now. Country isn't country anymore.
Mm-mm.
It's not
Dude,
country because they
dude,
don't
it,
want to. Why? Because they don't want to have anybody have any value in the South to whenever they start taking over these farms and these ranches. Nobody's going to care.
mm-mm.
Nobody's going to care. And why? Why? Because the South, because they do have more farmland and more ranches down here, they are people that know how to live off the land. They are people that are self sufficient and know how to take care of business. And they want to get rid of us. This goes higher than the music industry, this goes higher than governments.
But once again, all connected.
Yes. And
I
by the
think the
way,
same devil runs all these industries.
So, anybody that is on X, if you've not heard of Brian Upchurch, he is an independent artist. He is amazing. I'm going to put his link to his YouTube in both chats.
Like, And I think the last thing I wanted to say as far as Assassin's Creed, Black Flag was, basically, was about the early, settlers in like America, and it had a lot to do with the Mayans on that one. And more or less, the Mayans were guardians of this sacred technology by the Isu. And a couple of the objects, like were actually based off of you know, like real shit. Like, what was it? Can't remember. They call it the Golden Fleece or whatever. What was that, Kitty?
I don't remember what you're talking about.
That one they actually had from Syndicate. It was one of the artifacts. Pulled it up, but there was a couple different apples of Eden, what they call the apples of Eden, and
Right, the
basically they were
artifacts.
like,
I was going to start to go into that. Go ahead.
yeah. So basically they were like neurotransmitters, and with it, like you could literally control people with it, and it also like stored like knowledge and shit like that in it. Let me see if I can pull up the whole. It was the Shroud of Eden. the Shroud of Eden. So basically, that was supposed to be um, like it was healing. You know, it could heal any wound, any sickness. And what was that based off of, Kitty? I know that was based off of something in real life.
Which one?
The Shroud of Eden, the cloak.
Are you? I think it was. I thought it was talking about. It was a reference to like the shroud, like Jesus' shroud.
I think that was, yeah.
Uh huh. Yeah. Oh, Chrissy, I will so appreciate any help you can give me. I have not even begun at churches. Oh my gosh, it is going to be humongous.
Oh, yeah.
His discography, absolutely. I put his link in the chat, you guys. Anybody who's new, if y'all like independent music, he does country rap, hip hop, he does rock, and if you like stuff with lyrics that really mean something, check him out.
Heck yeah, absolutely. So, one of the artifacts as well was actually Leonidas's spear as well. That was
Yes.
used in Odyssey. Another one too was the trident. Fuck, what was his name?
Right. From
Not
the
Hermes.
sea god, the sea god.
Yeah, no, no, it was the not the trident, the staff. It was fuck, what was it called? The RX symbol with the snakes.
Oh yeah.
What the fuck was that
hmm
called?
I don't know, but I'm going to look. Let's see here. They had so many artifacts in this game, and it's all from history. It's all based on something from history. It's actually very fascinating. Let's see here.
Oh fuck, how am I drawing a blank on that?
I know what you're talking about, though. Anybody in the chat,
Yeah.
if y'all played Assassin's Creed, y'all remember what it is.
Well, no, it's
Put it
not.
in the chat for us.
It's outside of. It's outside of Assassin's Creed. Staff of Hermes. It was Hermes. So yeah, it's the Staff of Hermes. Trismegistus.
hmm
So, um, which everyone knows that's like the medical symbol, and it is actually used in what they call the symbol of life, which I'm gonna pull that up as well.
hmm So I like in the game how it shows you historical paintings in the past, actual historical paintings from royalty and popes. And by the way, the hint earlier, whenever I was talking about what type of people, whenever you think about this, the hint for next week, we're going to be talking about elite people trying to control. Right? It's also royalty. So I love the pictures of the paintings that they put in there on some of these. What do you call it? It's not like a. It's part of the game, but it's not where you're actively doing stuff. It's where you're just going and getting intel. Um, Whenever you're out of the Animus, you're going through files and stuff like that, basically through the game. And anyway, so in a lot of these paintings and stuff, you see the artifact, like the Pope is holding an artifact. You know, kings and queens are holding artifacts, things like that.
Yeah, that was
So,
actually a play off of the hand in the pocket.
mhm. Which that is actually tied back to Freemasonry. The hand in the pocket. Are you talking about the hand in the pocket like this?
Like like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so it's actually the caduceus. I think is how you say it. Staff. So there's the caduceus staff and the rod of Asclepius. I think is how you say it. Okay, hold on.
Can you
Correct
show
me
us
if
a
I'm wrong.
picture?
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna pull this up because I think I'm having a fucking Mandela moment here. Make sure I'm reading this right. So they are often confused. The caduceus staff is a staff with two snakes intertwined around it, topped with wings, and is associated with the Greek god Hermes or the Roman Mercury, the messenger
Mm-hmm.
god. The rod of Asclepius features a single snake. So
Okay.
the rod of Asclepius is actually the true medical symbol, but I swear, I always remember it as being the two snakes with the wings.
So do I.
Holy shit! Anybody in the chat? Are y'all having the Mandela effect moment right now? Who remembers it being the two snakes versus the one? I fucking swear it was the two snakes. This is tripping me out. That
So
doesn't
so
even
do
look.
I. I could have sworn it was the two snakes as well.
That doesn't even
I
look
don't
right
remember.
with one snake.
But that makes you wonder, why is it the one snake? Why
Yeah,
is it only one? So does it tell you anything about it on there?
like about the snake.
Yeah, about the one, the artifact with the one snake.
Uh,
See, Chrissy says two as well.
yeah. What the fuck is going on?
It's interesting.
Here, let's see what this is. At National Institutes of Health, Missouri Medicine. The single staff one snake entwined is the current American Medical Association logo. The history of this ancient symbol. Many physicians as well as the public are unaware that there are two distinct symbols commonly used which have two different origins. Only 6% of people in India in the 2014 survey knew Asclepius was the true symbol of medicine. So Asclepius was the god of medicine and the son of Apollo, the god of healing.
Mm,
It's a rough-hung
mm.
bridge representing plants and growth entwined by a single snake.
Oh, that's going to be a big hint for next week as
He
well.
was known as god of medicine. He was killed by his grandfather Zeus. What in the fuck?
So
So
very.
this is from the Greek word meaning herald's wand, and was a badge of diplomatic ambassadors associated with commerce, eloquence, alchemy, thievery, and lying. So is this like some? I mean that basically kind of fits big pharma, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So is this their way of like fucking with us, like using the two snakes for so long, and then all of a sudden they're like, no, no, we're gonna redact everything and we're gonna scrub that. We're gonna make it all the one snake, so people don't make the connection. I mean, dude, how can medical professionals not know? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you would think they would, that being like their symbol, more or less.
Right. And so the two snakes, it represents that double helix, right?
Yeah,
Um,
and that makes more
it's like a
sense.
twisted ladder, which makes more sense. Now, that is a big hint towards next week as
Yeah.
well.
So I did not know this.
Because what can be created without a father
Yeah.
or a mother? You mentioned it earlier, Stunner Man.
Yeah. And I didn't know this, but supposedly it's believed that Hippocrates was a direct descendant of Asclepius,
Hmm. Very interesting.
which makes sense because, yeah, I mean, the Hippocratic Oath came from Hippocrates. But
Right.
apparently, the oath begins with the words, I swear by Apollo, the physician, and by Asclepius. Asclepius.
Hmm.
Huh. So it says the role of the United States Army Medical Corps is crucial in the confusion. In 1902, at the suggestion of an assistant surgeon, Captain Frederick Reynolds, a new uniform code was established, and the caduceus became a collar insignia for all personnel in the USAMC. From Captain Reynolds' correspondence with the Surgeon General's office, it is apparent that he was unaware of the distinction between the two. He recommended the combined use of the quote-unquote cock of Asclepius and the caduceus. His statement to the Surgeon General that the medical corps of several foreign powers, notably the English, all displayed the caduceus was also erroneous. In fact, no other Western medical military service of that time displayed the caduceus. They all used the Asclepius symbol. Medical associations, Asia, India, Canada, Great Britain, France, Germany, Africa, and Scandinavia all share the staff of Asclepius. Huh. So it looks like basically the Marine Corps was responsible for adopting the two snakes. Interesting. What is the symbolism behind that? I wonder.
Mm-hmm.
Because, dude, I know I've seen that even at the Walmart pharmacy.
Oh yeah. No,
So,
totally.
did they purposely just use the wrong symbol?
They're not ready for people to know yet. That's all I can say.
Yep.
That's all I can say.
Well, that threw me for a loop there. But
Yeah.
yeah, but cool thing about Assassin's Creed is a lot of it, like, I guess you'd say the filler of the primary storyline of the game itself, is all historically accurate. I mean, there's actually some videos online where they actually have historians validating some of the later games and their historical accuracy, everything down from the architecture of the buildings to the landscape and everything. So they do pride themselves on being as historically accurate as possible. Now the main storyline is kind of up for debate, but one of the things I really liked about the Ezio trilogy was like the glitches, I think is what they call them, and the anomalies or whatever, where you actually were able to uncover these documents, and it's basically research done by another I forgot what they call them, patients or something like that. Um, but and it kind of goes in like Kitty was saying, where it makes the correlation everything down from George Washington to Henry Ford himself, like you know Tesla, about how they offed Tesla, you know, just so that they could have his technology and all that, and they didn't, they wanted the control over it. They didn't want free electricity because that's what the Isu were wanting. They wanted the Templars to maintain control over that so that they could bring them back to life and maintain the human race as slaves. And there's just so much shit in it, so much history that ties in. I mean, everything down to falsifying archaeological finds, to falsely prove evolution and everything. I mean, there's just so many aspects depending on which game you play and all that. Each one's kind of a different era. Just I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we don't know. A lot of gaps to fill, and it is definitely a very thought-provoking way to entertain those gaps. Try to figure out what's what might have really happened, what the bigger picture is, what this grand eternal fight between good and evil is all about. And I think at the end of the day, that's what we're all trying to figure out. Like Chrissy said, like why are people evil? Why is this necessary?
Right.
I think
Absolutely.
that's the question we are all really trying to figure out at this point. We know the evil's there. It's not a question of it does it exist anymore.
Right.
Now it's to know your enemy. We need to understand why it exists, because when we understand why, then we can start to devise a plan to eradicate it.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. Uh,
Christy, I didn't know there were multiple movies. I know there is one, and it was very, very badass, and yes, it did tie into the game quite a bit. It kind of took its own little spin-off storyline there, but yes, Patriot, it is a very long series. I gotta say, I think was it like Unity and Rogue. I really kind of got lost on those, but with Black Flag though, like I was saying, it really makes you think of why why we came to America, why we tried to colonize it, you know, and it really kind of takes a thought provoking aspect on that as to you know basically we came over here to raid the Mayans and get a hold of this ancient technology that they were protecting, and that ancient technology was actually what we today are calling the looking glass.
mhm.
And anybody here, I'm sure a lot of people watching on X are familiar with it. Anybody who's ever gone on a deep dive with Q,
Mhm.
there's a lot of mentions of the looking glass.
Mhm.
So real quick, I'm gonna throw up a bonus little thing here. Anybody who knows of Q, what do you think Q is?
Or who do you think it is?
Yeah. Um, Q. My initial thought was Q from Star Trek, but yeah. Any theories? Let's hear them in the chat.
So you had mentioned something earlier I was going to comment to, and then we went so far away from that, like just in that little bit of time, I can't remember what I was going to say.
My bad.
You're good. You're good.
Rambling too much. Rambling.
No, it's not rambling. Like it's all flowing. I just,
Yeah.
ADD mind here.
Patriot, Black Flag. Oh man, I have to say I'm torn between Brotherhood and Black Flag, man. But Brotherhood was just awesome because you could actually like train your assassins and like build up your team, and man, when you could do like the arrow storm, just call in the arrow storm, the fucking all the motherfuckers just drop. That shit was badass. Sons of Liberty. I don't know if I ever played that one. I don't think I've ever heard of that. Oh, you're talking about the third game with fuck, what's his name? Yeah, not Edward. It was his grandfather or whatever. But yeah, fun games. Anybody who hasn't played them, man, just what I like doing is just kind of going through the documents and stuff in the game because, like I said, man, it's all accurate historical shit being portrayed. Just how it plays into the storyline is speculative but interesting. And
Hmm.
I don't think the game is 100% accurate, but I definitely think has some theories. I mean, we all
Absolutely.
know there's weird shit with Tesla. We already talked about the Industrial Revolution. I don't think anything particularly about Henry Ford, but I do know that there are some accounts that he was kind of you know, not such a great upstanding guy as he was portrayed to be. But I think
Hmm.
that's the case with a lot of, a lot of historical figures, you know. I think, you know, they were glorified to fit a narrative, you know, and to the people writing history, they were good people, but to us, the people, they weren't.
Mm-hmm.
Connor, yes. Connor Kenway. Heck yeah. But, so really, this was more a kind of a bridge between our next episode. But,
Oh, that's what it
oh
was.
yeah, go for it.
The Looking Glass.
Yeah.
That is what do you were asking, what do you think, who do you think Hugh is in the chat? I'm going to ask the chat, what object or artifact, it doesn't have to be from Assassin's Creed, what do you think the Looking Glass is? Like,
Ooh, good one.
obviously you know what it is, right? But what is it really? What is the object?
Ooh, good one. Good one. Chrissy, I think she was saying military.
Hmm.
Chrissy, my theory is I think you. Well, are you ready for a kitty, or do you want me to give him a
Go
second?
ahead. Go
Okay.
ahead.
I think Q is the Looking Glass. I think Q and the Looking Glass are an advanced AI. Could be completely wrong, but
Yeah.
you know, math is the universal language, and computers are very good at math.
Hmm.
You know, everything comes down to formulas and equations, variables, constants. When you can sort it all out and make sense of that, then I don't think seeing the future is all that hard, especially when the future could be whatever you make it. And I think if you can take data from the entire world and you can form trends and use advanced forms of statistics, it could very well be possible.
Hmm.
I mean, they call the, you know, periodic table, you know, the map of life. You know, if that's accurate, then I mean, right there, you may have a lot of the data you need right there. Knowing how, you know, our like not our elementary particles, but like atoms and everything act and form and bond. You know, if we can understand that, we can predict that. We can calculate charges and all of that. If we understood what space and time actually are, you know, if space, you know, when you think of space time, you know, I'm sure a lot of people think space up above, but space is space around us. It's all around us. It's not outside of our atmosphere necessarily. We call that space, but say you're trying to fit some furniture and you're like, I don't have a space for this. I don't have an area, a measurement of volume big enough to contain this piece of furniture. So space
Hmm.
would be like an area, right? Maybe a location. So space time being, you know, a measurement, and space being a location. You know, if you were to go back in time, yeah, you need a time to go back to, but when you go back in time, where are you going to be? You need to define a location as well, right? I mean, you don't want to just drop into like a fucking volcano or into the middle of the ocean. You need a point. So you need two variables to be determined. So if we can understand space-time and what that actually is, I don't think it would be that hard to see the future.
Hmm.
You know, when we understand fourth, fifth, sixth dimension, all the way up to the seventh, we will be able to see that far ahead. We'll be able to go back and even make changes.
Hmm.
And just like Assassin's Creed, when I was talking about the synchronization, You know how, like, you can take different paths. You know, like short-term memory, you're basically filling in the gaps. What you do is filling in the gaps, but the same big events consistently happen. You know, that was that actual memory. The short term, you're basically filling in with your own actions. Same thing works with time travel. To go back in time, there are certain things that are set in stone, and to be set in stone, like how you know if they're set in stone is when a tangent forms. Those are events that cannot be changed. But everything else, if we're calling everything in between those tangents, for argument's sake here, the short term memory, we can go back and change those little things, everything in between. But those main tangents, those critical events, cannot be changed. So, you know, I do believe there have been times when we have gone back and made changes, but they weren't changes that could be made to really affect and alter our entire reality to a big enough impact that we would notice. Hence, why I believe the Mandela effect exists. How do you scrub the entire internet? How do you scrub? I mean, okay, yeah. I mean, you could write an advanced AI bot that can go on the internet, scan for, you know, massive amounts of data for a precise match to an image.
But yeah, but how do
You can
you
scrub it.
change the memories of everybody?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But what if somebody downloaded that picture, took a copy of it from the internet and saved it on their computer, but then all of a sudden it no longer exists, or it's different than what they
Right.
remember?
Yeah.
Little things like
That's
that, I
creepy.
believe, are where they're going back. I believe the Mandela effect is when they're going back and making small little changes, like the logo of a fucking, you know, box of stuffing. They're going back in time
Hmm.
and they're modifying little things.
So going back to the rod with the one snake, I decided to look at something because something sounded familiar about that, and sure enough, it was. So if you get to Numbers 21 in the Bible, this is after Moses had already thrown the staff down and it became a serpent. And then after that, Moses' brother Aaron had cast down the staff before the Pharaoh and it transformed it into a serpent. So in Numbers 21, this is after that. God instructed Moses to create a serpent, like, something in the shape of a serpent on that pole, on that rod, which would heal the Israelites who looked upon it after being bitten by fiery serpents.
Interesting.
So I'm going to add another hint here. Who here believes they're reptilians?
Yep, I do.
Draconians, reptilians, they're the same thing. Let us know in the chat. You see
Hey,
that right there. You look it up. The first thing you find is something that is polytheistic. Correct?
yeah, correct.
And something from my thinking, I was like, I remember something like that because you guys, I kind of went over this a couple weeks ago. I'm just now really kind of getting back into like reading the Bible and stuff like that, and stuff I read probably years ago. I don't remember as well, but yeah. So, um, but
Patriot,
absolutely.
you hit the nail on the head right there. It's moving in time and in space. My sample would be getting from point A to point B. But if you ride your bicycle or car through space, then you're moving in time.
Mm-hmm.
See, now to understand that, to be able to like visualize that in your head, like you can't think like you've been taught to think. You know, like we exist so three-dimensionally that we cannot understand the fourth dimension, let alone anything higher. But when you start thinking like that and you're able to visualize that in your head and say, this is it. It makes sense. The correlation of how they're so similar but they're so different, but they exist together and they interweave. You know, this is how what we have to overcome. I feel like to really be able to advance our minds and our souls is we have to stop thinking so three dimensionally. We have to start thinking outside of the box. We have to start looking at things from a different perspective.
Absolutely. Patriot believes that there are either reptilians or draconians. Chrissy brings up a really good question. What would make one a reptile? So it could just be personality. Like, look at COVID. I'm sorry, baby. I probably shouldn't have done that. Oh no, YouTube. Oh
No,
no.
fuck you too.
Anyway, so look at that era and look at how many governments were shutting everybody down, shutting down businesses, wanting people to stay at home. That's draconian rule, control, right? It could be personality like that, always wanting to control everything. Now, there have been in the past where, or even recently, look at King Charles, dude. That dude looks like a lizard himself. Does he not?
Oh yeah.
Like seriously, he looks like he's like a lizard of some sort, you know.
Fucking Zuckerberg.
And going back in history, you know, as well. Look at some of the pharaohs; they look kind of reptilian in their characteristics. Um, so it just depends. It could be either personality, their traits, or it could be like physical traits.
Yep. Now, Just Doing brought this up on one of their previous episodes. So I'm gonna make a kind of a tie into that. What what does Draco mean in Latin? Dragon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So draconian would be like dragon.
Right, and I'm gonna give another hint. Hold on. Let me.
We're excited about this guy. No, we keep dropping hints, but we're excited where we're going with this.
Yes. Let's see. So, who in history was basically based? This person in history was based off of the book written of Count Dracula.
Yeah.
His last name was actually Dracula. If y'all know it, put it in the chat.
Heck yeah.
Okay. And okay, I'm gonna wait till somebody see if somebody knows. Okay,
Heck
I'm
yeah.
excited about this. So anyway. But yeah, no, totally. Um let's see here. There was another thing that you mentioned, and I was gonna build off of that, but I don't remember what it was again. ADD strikes again.
We could go on all night talking
Oh,
about theories.
oh yeah, no, totally. I think I'm gonna just put out like quizzes every week, like every day until this episode. Do you believe in this or this? Do you believe in this or this? What do you think this is? You
Hell
know,
yeah.
like
No, that'd be
yeah,
awesome.
I think I'm gonna have to. Can you repeat the question? Oh, okay. So
Yes, yeah, repeat.
who? Okay, so who in history? So Count Dracula, the book, right? Who in history was that based off of? That person in history also true last name is also Dracula.
Heck yeah. Sick.
And go ahead and get a picture of him ready, babe, to pull up.
Gotcha. Let me pull that up.
Hmm.
And saying that there's some truth to Dracula. I do believe there's some truth to Frankenstein as well.
Mm, okay.
Nosferatu,
Mm-hmm.
all of them.
So speaking of Dracula, Dracula was obviously, according to the book, a vampire. Who believes that there are truly vampires out there?
What is a vampire, though?
That is very true, Patriot. That is very true. Like I want to say it was the Hopi, had like reptilian people helping them that were deep underneath the tunnels and in hiding. Um, Dracula, yeah, that's true. Um, it was actually, you ready to pull up the picture, babe?
Really?
Okay, Vlad the Impaler from Russia, and he ruled back in the like 1400s. And if you could just pull up that picture on the far left right there, try to do it singularly. Look at this dude. He looks kind of, you can kind of see like there could be some reptilian like features there, right? Not quite as bad as King Charles, but a little bit. So here, who here believes in vampires? But remember, his last name was actually Dracula.
Yep.
And that
The
goes
third.
back to the dragon,
The third. He was the third.
Draconian. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, makes you think about, was it the seven-headed dragon with the seven crowns?
Mm-hmm. He did fight off the Ottoman 100%. It absolutely patriot and son of the dragon, protector of the people. Um, Now, there were a couple of things about that. Absolutely. Um, believe there's something to vampires. There is. There is.
I
I
think there's
absolutely believe it.
many different breeds of vampires.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think
And
there
we've talked
are,
about that before.
emotional vampires, people who feed off of emotion. There,
There are also dream vampires, vampires in the dreams.
oh, those are. I don't know if those are necessarily related to dream stalkers or not,
Yeah.
but and there are blood vampires.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
Absolutely.
they're not feeding off of the blood because that's their source of nutrition. In the sense that we think, metabolizing and digesting and all that, it's more of the source that they
Mm-hmm.
need for survival. And Chrissy, you actually said the word earlier, adrenochrome.
That's one of them.
Yep.
Yes. Absolutely. So, there are some different things with Vlad the Impaler. He was a great person for his people. Like, he was literally left with his back to the wall, basically. I believe he was also the one that was raised by the Ottomans there for a little while, he and his brother. And Lord knows what happened to that poor boy when he was over there. But his father had him go over there. That was kind of a common thing between royalty at that time. And he was over there at that point. And then um, he had come back over and he went ahead and took over and he was just trying to protect his people. Um, Now, it doesn't mean that everybody that has that last name is a bad person. It does not mean that. Look at the tale of King Arthur, Pendragon, right? Uther didn't get a good rap. but Arthur did. So it just kind of, just because it's a bloodline doesn't mean you're always going to make the same choices as your bloodline. I'll say that.
How's it go? Forgiving the sins of our fathers.
Right. I don't remember that exact quote, but yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Something's going on with the. Gotcha. But a lot of shit. A lot of shit. But yeah, we're at 2.5, so I think we're gonna go ahead and call it a wrap for the night, guys. But yeah, I know this seems like a lot, but we are definitely tying it in on the next episode, and probably one after that as well will be the part 3 of this. So,
And if
but
any
thank
of you
y'all for
guys in the chat, if y'all have a question about what we talked about tonight, or anything like that, message Centerman or me on IG, and we will try to get with you. And Chrissy, I'm going to try to get on that shadow site either this weekend or next week and try to figure it out. But thank you so much for all your help. We love helping people. We love helping those independent artists.
absolutely. But everyone, thank y'all so much for joining in. Everybody on the X, Rumble, YouTube, Patriot, Chrissy, Carter, Georgia, Woodchuck, all you guys, man. If we forgot any, I apologize, but you know we love you guys, man. Thank y'all so much for supporting us and always trying to jump on our lives, man. We appreciate each and every one of you. We
Mhm.
couldn't do without you guys. Thank you all so much.
Absolutely. It'd be so boring without them.
Oh
Oh
heck
my
yeah.
gosh, they make it so
Especially y'all.
interesting.
Y'all have fucking awesome minds, man. You guys are
Exactly.
always bringing good shit to the chat, man. Thank you all so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, everybody, y'all ready? Cree
Great
squad,
squad.
motherfucker.
Hope y'all have a
Get
great night, great weekend, guys. Y'all be safe. Our best to y'all's families.